In 2017, we cut the ribbon to the Apple Tree House, also known as the Van Wagenen House. And we have been committed since then to finding interesting, fun, innovative ways to bring the public into the house, to celebrate our history here in Jersey City, and to enjoy any number of really interesting programs.
Kind of started to have our students engage with local history in Jersey City and kind of realize that they're really surrounded by unique local history, and to create an event to highlight that. And we started by looking at the history around our different high schools.
And our first history fair of Jersey City, or the Jersey City History Fair, was held at Dickinson High School. And it was a hit. So what the kids did from grades 3 to 12 is that they researched a street, a house, a landmark, a person, someone famous from Jersey City. And we had visual presentations, oral presentations, and we had tours around Dickinson High School, because Dickinson High School is the first school in Jersey City, first high school in Jersey City.
And then we've now partnered with the Apple Tree House and really enjoying this space as a cultural space to highlight history, and the location of this house, really kind of in the center, provides a really interesting story and opportunity for us to share the space and look at Jersey City history.
Now the loving home of the History Fair, which this year is the third annual one to take place at the Apple Tree House. The History Fair in years past has been a celebratory congregation of students and their research projects. You can think about it almost like a science fair with presentations of research, but with history research instead of science. And our work with the social studies department really was trying to investigate the ways in which we could spread across curriculum women's studies and figures from women's history to be remembered at the K through 12 level. So the social studies social studies coordinators, Melissa and Liz, worked really hard to coordinate with the social studies teachers across the city to aid students in their research projects and to select the winners that were going to be displayed in the house.
Because we have 27 elementary schools, we have 6 high schools, 2 or 3 standalone middle schools. It's a lot of entries that came in, and the challenge is to review all those entries and to select the winners.
One from Ferris that had this graphic, really looked like graphic artists made it, right? And I just, that one always stood in my mind. It is, going to be obviously on the site, and I just was so impressed that a student could create that. Some collaboration with the art teacher, but it wasn't officially in art class. It was just we let the kids be creative, and students are creative. And I think when it comes to digital work and creating things, they are really adept at it.
Well, and it had to be visually appealing because it was a poster. They had to pick a relevant person, a person that had, a direct connection to the movement, and it had to have, pertinent information. It didn't have to have their whole bio, but it had to have at least a summary of what this suffragette had done in the time that she was in the movement. One from PS20, grade 4. She had done, I think it was Mina, and Mina happens to be one of my favorites. And she had done actually 2 presentations, and it was difficult to select which presentation that we were going to accept. And unfortunately, we had to select only one because that was part of the rules for the contest. And she did, the student who's now a 5th grader in my gifted and talented class, she did an excellent job on Mina Van Winkle. The graphics were excellent. The information was, really right on par.
An incredible amount of really vibrantly detailed designed posters, as well as incredibly insightful research that they gathered. the team behind the programming thought of different ways we could illuminate this period of history and also bring to life these characters that the students were researching. This year, going into the History Fair of 2020, we were aiming to amplify past years of the History Fair programming by adding different elements of pageantry and really cultivate a museum-going experience.
We got creative with our planning in terms of what does a suffrage museum look like, right? So we looked at pageantry and artwork. I connected with an artist in New Mexico who made some prints for us. She also created kind of like it's like our theme that suffragette is superhero, right? So we were really excited to combine like the artwork, the fashion program at Snyder High School made the sashes. So we really were excited to bring the history alive, right? To make that suffrage kind of feeling in the museum. And I know like the inspiration for this too, going through in Washington, D.C., right? The National Museum and the National Portrait Gallery, they had a beautiful suffrage exhibit, and that was just so interesting to me that how can we have students be part of that, right? And their work, their research in creating some museum size, text with image, I'm gonna call them posters, right? But they were just really big, like museum style placards of their research to have their work on the walls of the museum at the Apple Tree House. That was the goal.
Jim Crochet of Leading Lady Costumes is a Jersey City resident and has designed costumes for Broadway and for film and for major museums across the United States. And he's brought us some costumes of suffragettes so we can have a great idea of how they dressed at the time. He has such an incredible attention to detail and really brought a lot to the house with his costume installation.
So along those lines, we worked with a local craft artisan and designer, Megan Wagner, who is incredibly skilled at handicrafts and bringing together different elements of women's suffragette era ephemera, things like protest banners, flags, pennants, and hats, as well as she made sashes and buttons for all sorts of moments within this history exhibition that we saw them illuminating kind of the era that they came from.
I'm Megan Wagner. My background is actually in the theater, but I'm sort of just a general creative. I do lots of handwork, design, all sorts of different things like that. My first love in the theater was for classical theater. So history and performance have always been a big interest for me. When I first started working on the banners, I thought, oh, I can use some adhesive felt, I can use some contemporary ways of doing it, but as it turned out, you really just can't. You really have to sew all those letters on by hand. And one of those pieces took me 5 months or 4 months, and it was so fulfilling in the end. But work, like real hard work. But it came out very beautifully.
COVID hit and we had to make it digital. So what we decided with you, with Gretchen and everybody here is that we decided that we would do a more digital visual presentation instead of in person.
That's what it looks like, right? It's an online museum-like work, and luckily we do have artwork and hats and pageantry made to kind of give that a little more depth as opposed to Google Slides, right? So we have a little more, I think artwork and imagery really help that.
So when COVID-19 happened, we had to rethink this live event. What was very challenging at the time was how close to the event that we were. We had almost nearly everything completed. The students had completed the research. They'd put together these incredibly visually interesting museum posters that we were going to hang. We completed the craft replicas of the era. We had lined up all the scholarly talks. We'd coordinated across different departments and public schools and government entities to bring together this very dynamic and robust programming period. And then that all happened in early March. So when we started to think about how we could deliver this programming in a safe way under the regulations of COVID-19, we thought about pivoting to virtual realms. And initially we thought we could maybe replicate it through a Zoom experience or a live broadcasted experience where students shared their research. That became a hard task because of the sheer logistics of working across grades, and we were now in a different school year. So we also thought about different ways we could bring together all these elements in one space. And what really stuck out to us as an option was going forward with a website and a behind-the-scenes video to really kind of illuminate all of the different moving parts that went into thinking about how you bring a history exhibition to life, and one where the meat and potatoes, the content of the show is really predicated on the student work and how you highlight that enormous effort that students did across the city.
So we went to the drawing board and thought about how can we take the programming that we've planned and have ready to go for the public and move it into the virtual realm. And it was a wonderful, wonderful, talented team that worked very hard to make that happen. And we are really excited to have all of these different elements that would have, in the best of times, been appreciated by the students and by their families and by our team here at Cultural Affairs. And now will be online for everyone to enjoy and for a long period of time to be able to come back and revisit.